And I'm not sure what happened there, but I buffered some kind of awful and I had to end the video and restart it. This is Dr. King coming at you from 800 Link Community here in Duncanville, Texas, right outside of Dallas. And I'm assuming I'm live now. Y'all bear with me. I am used to using Zoom, and Zoom has gone away for TI community. So this is Dr. King. This is I very seldom use Facebook Live. I got to get used to this. So y'all bear with me and give me a couple of 2 or 3 presentations to get, to get used to using Facebook Live. Because like I said, Zoom was my thing and Zoom has gone away and that's fine. But this is Dr. King, Bridget King, coming from 800 Link. I want to talk to you guys today about how running a sports program is about more than wins and losses. If you're not familiar with me or you have not watched any of my Zoom presentations that I record and post to the TI Communities page, I am also a girls basketball coach. I have been one for 13 years now. My program is the Lady Panthers Girls Basketball Association, and it is basketball season. It's, if you know anything about youth sports, it's club ball season. April through July for youth basketball is club ball season, and this is my time to shine. And so all of my presentations for the last, I think since May, the beginning of May, end of April, have all been on basketball topics. And I think this is my last one. I may have one more, but then I'm going to start talking about college stuff, getting your kids ready for college and things like that. But today we are focusing on how running a sports program is about more than wins and losses. And so when I say that, yes, when you are a coach of any sport, you do need technical knowledge of the game. You need to know how to play the game. You need to understand the rules. You need to understand the nuances and all of that. I get that. But when you are also a sports coach, I don't care if it's youth, college, from elementary to professional. Let's do that. If we want to talk about 8U ball through junior high, through high school, through the collegiate level, through the professional level, there is more to coaching a sport than just knowing how to play. If you think about how many different athletes have tried to coach a sport and realized that they couldn't do it, and so that has to do with, even though they have the technical knowledge, they didn't have everything else that was needed. And we're going to talk about that, everything else that's needed. So first, we've discussed the technical knowledge. Yes, you need to understand the game. You need to have the skills necessary to be able to play the game, offense, defense, whatever sport. I'm a basketball coach, so you're going to hear me talk a lot about coaching basketball. So as far as basketball, you got to be able to understand offenses, defenses, lineups, strategies, how not to foul, how to set screens, pivoting, shooting, teaching a shot arsenal. There is so much that technical knowledge, yes, there has to be. But what we're also talking about is the educational side of coaching. And so that comes with having licenses. And I talk about licensing a lot because we have a lot of coaches that feel because they have played the game that they are not required. They don't need to be licensed. They don't even want to get licensed because, hey, I played the game. I don't need to be licensed. But you do, because there's a legal aspect to coaching that, just like any other law, ignorance of the rules is not an excuse if you get caught doing something. It's the same way with coaching sports. And so things like understanding that coaches should never be left alone with players. When you go out on travel trips, when you go to play travel ball, that's where you travel to tournaments and things to play. There are different rules that are in place on how coaches can interact with the players in the hotel rooms, and, how to place players, and how to, you want to have so many kids a room, but you don't ever as a coach want to be left alone with a player because too much can go wrong there. It has, safe sport. If you're a USA basketball licensed coach, you had to take the safe sport training that teaches you, how to watch out, for abuse and bullying, and just how you should act as a coach, act and behave, things you should and should not do as a coach. That's the part of coaching that I'm talking about. So let's talk about licensing. And with basketball, the main licensing there is the USA Basketball Associate and Gold Coach licenses. And then you have each individual state has their state association licenses, like especially if you coach school ball, you have the state association licenses. But then there's also the NFHS licensing. So there are all different types of licensings. There are different, you have the National Association of Youth Sports. AAU does licensing through Positive Coaching Alliance. There are so many sports licensings out there that regardless to what sport you play, they have overall licenses for different things. Like each sport has their own specific sports licenses, but then there are licenses and certifications that you can get for how to prevent tearing ACLs, substance abuse, officiating. There are like, I mean, if you go to the NFHSlearn.com website, there are so many licenses and certifications that you can get as a coach that you want to have. You don't want to get caught in a situation where something goes wrong and you say, well, I didn't know about that. I didn't think about that, because when it comes, especially when it comes to kids, that's where legalities come into place, and parents want to sue and, things of that nature, and you want to cover your butt, and these licenses come with insurance. If anything happens to you, when your players get licensed, when you host an event, your event is covered under insurance. So if something happens, there's an insurance policy protecting your event. But then when you get licensed, there's an insurance policy protecting you. Your individual license protects your event, but then like with AAU, you host events. There's also insurance licenses that you can get through AAU that covers your events in case something happens. So you want to be licensed to have not only your personal insurance, but also insurance to cover the event you're hosting. You have to look like AAU does it. USA Basketball does it. If you have been approved and sanctioned to host one of their events. You don't just go get with USA Basketball and, you host an event and you just get automatic approval. USA Basketball, you have to put in an application, may pay a fee that's refundable or something like that. Then once you are approved, your event then becomes insured through USA Basketball and things of that nature, because you're really hosting an event for them. Got it? So you want to get your education as far as coaching. And like I said, because I'm a basketball coach, I'm gonna talk about basketball. So there's USA Basketball. I always get the gold certification. That's their big one. But they have the associates one. You have AAU has their licensing through Positive Coaching Alliance. You have National Association of Youth Sports, and then you have NFHSlearn.com. Those are the main ones that you want to have. But like if you're also a school coach, here in Texas, we do University Interscholastic League, or UIL, the Texas Association of Basketball Coaches. So if you are a school coach, you also in Texas, you're going to get the TABC license, and UIL license, and so, and I think TABC, I think there's another one. I don't think it's straight UIL, but the TABC I know is one. I don't coach school ball. I coach club ball. So, but there are licenses that as a coach you want to have. Even though some of this stuff, you still want to be educated. Sometimes policies change, standard operational procedures change, how you report things change. So you want to make sure that you stay abreast of what's going on with your sport in your state, in your country, when it comes to coaching. And then also there's the administrative side of coaching. That's the running your program, having a board of directors, having a website, who's going to handle your money, making sure that your coaches are licenses. Like me, my program, Lady Panthers Girls Basketball Association, I have 9 coaches. I have 6 adult coaches, 3 associate coaches, which are my seniors who are 18 that are getting ready to graduate high school. They have now been transitioned over to not from playing for us to now coaching for us. And so I want to make sure they're certified. So I have to go through and make sure and find the certifying authorities that we're going to get our licenses through. And I let everybody know, hey, you need to go to these places, get your license. I'm going to send them the links. I'm going to tell them how much it's going to cost. Those things, you want to make sure, how do you set your fees? How is it going to be per person? Are you going to do training? How are you going to, how is training going to be paid for? Is there going to be a monthly fee? Is there going to be a per session fee? Renting gym space, ordering uniforms, communicating with parents, having a team program website, designing that website. That's the whole side of off the court, or for basketball, off the court things that you have to know. That's not the technical side. This is the administrative side of coaching. Did you go to college and get a degree? Like, I have a doctorate in sports management. Sometimes you want to get that education to back up the technical skills you already know. We're becoming a society where, though education is still frowned upon by many, and I don't understand why, and I'm not here to discuss that. When you start talking about doing things, sometimes having alphabets behind and in front and behind your name helps you get seen. And so when I started working on my doctorate, my dissertation chair told me, he was like, Bree, you'll never understand how much the alphabets behind your name will open doors for you that just being Bridget King would not do. The doors were closed to Bridget King. But once I got that doctorate and became Dr. King, you'll be amazed how many doors open to me because I'm now Dr. King. I'm not just Bridget King, I'm Dr. King, and they listen to Dr. King. They may not have listened to Bridget King, but they listen to Dr. King. And I'm okay with that. So you do what you have to do to get your foot in the door, you know. And so we've talked about the management side, having social skills, learning how to communicate with your players. When we were coming up, coaches used to yell and cuss and, get on the line and, you don't practice hard enough. They making you run 30 laps. Well, if you know anything about kids get used to abuse, unfortunately. They learn to adapt to it, because when you're, and that's period. When you're abused and beat down and degraded, your mind starts to adapt to deal with that. And so just yelling at kids, as a sports coach, does not always resonate with all of them. You have to know how to communicate and get to each player, which means you have to sit down and learn each individual player in your program. You can't there is no across the board treatment with your players where you can just yell at them. Some of them you have to talk gently. Some of them you can yell at. Some of them, they're just, if you sit down and get to know your players, you will learn that there are some players that you just have to talk to them. There are some players you just have to look at. There are some players that, you can yell at, but you don't know that unless you get to know them. I got to know, because I've coached all my players for years. I've had my girls, my core squad, I've had them for 13 years. And excuse me, I'm sorry, I've been coaching for 11 years. I've had them for, 13 years. I've had them for 11 years. And you get to learn how you can communicate, what things can be done to get the word across and get your point across with your players. And the only way to do that is to sit down and communicate and get to know your players off the court. You have to do things off the court, have team bondings, team dinners, things of that nature. Sit down and do some things in practice. Everything doesn't have to be done. Sometimes you just want to have a practice where you're just talking about basketball, but you're not playing basketball. I've evaluated so many players that they can shoot threes and dunk and all that, but they have no clue the areas of the basketball court. And I tell everybody, the first thing I do is I give everybody a quiz. If you don't know the areas of a basketball court, that's a problem. That's a coaching issue. If your players don't know the areas of the basketball court, don't know the rules of the court, don't know that they can't do certain things and they can do certain things, that's coaching. That's not on the kids, that's coaching. So there is so much more. There has to be a social dynamic. You have to know how to communicate with your other coaches, your staff, your trainers, your parents. You have to know how to communicate with your parents. There's a triangle when it comes to coaching sports: the coach, the players, the parents. We want to do a square, the officials. But there's at least a triangle when it comes to coaching, that it's not just the coach, it's not just the players, it's not just the parents. It takes all three to make a successful program for a coach to be successful, because at the end of the day, every parent just wants you to do right by their kids. And when you don't, that causes problems. But in so doing, you also have to have a boundary where even parent behavior has to be checked from time to time. If you notice, you have every week, you see so many videos and so many news articles and so many stories about parents fighting in the stands, players fighting on the court, parents fighting refs, refs fighting coaches, refs fighting players, coaches fighting players, coaches fighting parents. And so there is so much that has to be done, that you want to make sure that you can communicate with players and things of that nature. But also, you want to know that you can do what you need to do and have everything set and going, and that comes with having social skills. And so then also networking, that means that you're making friendships and forging friendships with other coaches. And hold on just a second, my husband was coming in from work. I've changed my presentation time, and I didn't expect him to get home from work so early, and so he was coming through the door, and I had to stop him from coming through the door. But you want to network with other coaches, and get a feel and have that camaraderie with other coaches, so when things happen, that that you can, coaches call on you. If they need help, they can call on you. If you need help, you have coaches that you can call. And then also there's just knowing the governing bodies of the sport, being members of the governing bodies of your sport. I am a member of USA Basketball coaching license. I have a coaching license with AAU. I have a coaching license with the National Federation of High School Coaches. I don't have anything with UIL because I'm not a school coach, but you want to know and be involved with the governing bodies of your sport. So when things happen or when things come about, that they can call you, and you can call them. If you want to know specific rules, you can go to those websites. You have that information. You have access to things that if you're just not a member, you just don't have. So to wrap these things up, the first thing you definitely want to have, like I said, you want to have technical knowledge. Yes, you want to have the technical knowledge of running a sports program and coaching your sport. But you also want to be licensed and have education, that education of coaching your sports. The licenses, sometimes you got to go to get a degree or some type of certification of some type. But at the very least, you want to have the certification from the governing bodies that run your sport. You want to have management skills. You want to have social skills. You want to have networking skills, psychological skills. You want to be able to know how to deal with problems and behaviors of your players. You can't just say this player is bad, they just can't be on the team, I'm kicking them off the team. No, you can't do that. You want to be able to know how to deal with them individually as people and understand their things. I did a presentation the other day about how poverty affects the brains of kids. How growing up in certain at-home situations affect how kids behave away from home. You have to understand those things. And there are so many books out there that there is no reason why, as a coach, we can't be educated in what we need. Makes sense? So that's what I want to talk to you about today. And if you have any questions for me, you can always email me at educator 800 educator Bridget at ticommunities.com. You can email me, find me here on Facebook, Dr. Bridget King EDD. I have a YouTube page, Dr. Bridget M. King EDD. So, Instagram, Lady Panthers Girls Basketball Association, I think it's at Lady Panthers GBT, and then Twitter at LPGBA, Lady Panthers Girls Basketball Association. So you can find us. You can even Google my program and find my program's website. So that is all that I have for you guys today. I will see you back next week. Trying to get a feel, like I said, I've moved over and transitioned from using Zoom to using Facebook Live. So give me a little bit to transition over and get used to doing Facebook Live, and it'll be more effortless and seamless. But thank you for today, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.